What's up, everybody? Today is November 16th, 2021, and welcome back to this edition of the Super Stream. Whether you're a nerd of numbers, a freak of figures, intelligent about integers, or just a sucker for symbolistic synchronicity, you're in the right place. Now, in this video, we're going to cover several news stories and events from the past week. We're going to talk about the deaths of a couple of older men, one a senator from Georgia and another a retired NFL linebacker named Sam Huff. These stories relevant to a lot of connected to what's going on today. Sorry, I got to take these headphones out. They're throwing me off. And also we're going to get into the Kyle Rittenhouse case, which is currently going on in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Of course, closing arguments were made yesterday. And forgive me if that actually wrapped up today. If it did, I haven't missed it. Or I did miss it. All right, so let's get into this. Before we get deep into the stories from this week, I want to touch back on something that happened last weekend, where we had this tragedy in Houston, Texas, at the Astroworld Festival. And there was a new detail that came out over the past week about this event. And when scanning the security notes, apparently the media found that they were being instructed to refer to dead bodies as Smurfs at this concert. And I thought that was very odd. Now, of course, you can understand why you wouldn't want to say dead bodies over the radio, but, you know, what are the odds that they really had a code word for this? Not only a code word, but one that was so appropriate, considering that the people who died at the concert wound up turning blue, reminding us, of course, of Smurfs. And it does appear that there were some numerical synchronicities here to this story. And this story seems to be connected to something else that we've seen in the media lately, where the son of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, a kid named Adam, allegedly stabbed his elderly neighbor last year and has now been sentenced to prison. And we're going to see it how this story about the Abdul-Jabbar family is connected to the recent film Dune, in which there's this object called a Gam-Jabbar, which is a needle that gets poked into the hand, or perhaps the neck if I'm not mistaken, causing instant death. And think about how Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has been in the media, shaming athletes who don't want to take the Jabbar, right? And this seems to connect to Astroworld because there was this rumor originally, right after the festival, that people were getting jabbed in the neck with some sort of needle, and that's what ended up causing all these deaths, of course. It's one of those bizarre obfuscations that they put in the media to try and throw you off of what's really happening, which is that this was more or less a satanic ritual sacrifice. And how strange is it that the media, who scrambles to cover their ass on all sorts of things, is now scrambling to defend this festival, saying that people who say that this was a satanic ritual at Astroworld are conspiracy theorists, which I thought was kind of odd, right? What a strange thing to defend. And if you read this article published by The Insider, it seems to imply that maybe Facebook should be looking at removing these posts. So they're already censoring us for sharing trivial things like numerology. Now it seems like they don't appreciate that people are pointing out that this was a satanic ritual, which could not have really been more obvious. And I did an entire video on Astroworld. I also talked about it in my video on the death of a musician named Astro, who died just 2 days after the festival tragedy. A very strange story there. So the media loses its grip on the consciousness of the public every day, but perhaps this story, more than any other one in recent memory, shows firsthand how that's happening. I mean, saying that this is a conspiracy theory, like, why do they have an opinion on this? It's because people are finally starting to catch on to what they're doing and how deep and how dark this occult truly is, which is something that a very small percentage of humans, I think, are even willing to face in the first place. So, could there be a numeric ritual with the Smurfs included in this? And you know there is, even before. I mean, why else would I be talking about it? This all connects to the most recent Smurfs movie, which was released in April of 2017. Notice how the Astroworld tragedy was exactly 239 weeks after the release of the last Smurfs film. And in the language of Gematria, using the standard alphabetic order, Astroworld Festival sums to 239. Now, I found something else that's pretty bizarre about this. Here we're looking at a man named Peyo, who is the Belgian artist who created the Smurfs. This man was born in 1928, created the original Smurfs cartoon in the 1950s. Now, the first thing that stuck out to me is that he died on December 24th of 1992. And remember, my video on Astroworld discussed how that event conjured up the tragedy called the 1913 Massacre, which was a human stampede and the origin of the phrase, why you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. In Gematria, Houston Astroworld has this very rare alignment of summing to 1913 in both of our standard extended methods, as shown on the screen here. Anyway, that Italian hall disaster occurred on the date December 24th, which is the same day that Peyo, the creator of the Smurfs, died. The date December 24th of 1992 falls exactly 239 days after the birth of Travis Scott, whose concert this all happened at. Now, mind you, what we're looking at here is an older version of Wikipedia. For many years, Travis Scott was born in 1992, until recently when they changed his birthday to 1991, so that he had more numerical alignments for this event. So yeah, 239 days between the birth of Travis Scott and the death of the creator of the Smurfs. And this event was 239 weeks after the last Smurfs film. Astroworld Festival 239, Smurfs The Lost Village 263, which is very similar. And this is also similar to the phrase, see ya on the other side, summing to 293. And remember, 1913 is the 293rd prime number. This event in Texas was exactly 29 months and 3 days before the next total eclipse over the state of Texas. And I think Smurfs even has the same gematria as Texas. 496 and 66, just like Texas. 496, 66. You can't make this shit up, guys. You really can't. On top of all this, the concert this year fell 232 days before Peyo's birthday, without the end date. 232. And this man is known as Pierre Peyo Culliford, which sums to 232 in the alphabetic order. Now, it just so happens that earlier in 2021 is the first time there's been a new Smurfs cartoon since the U.S. cartoon back in the 80s. And notice how the Belgian name has gematria of 184 in multiple methods. The cartoon started on the 18th of April, 18/4, which was 202 days before the Houston Astroworld tragedy. Houston Astroworld 202 in reverse. That Smurfs cartoon debuted on the 257th day of the year. Houston Astroworld 257 in ordinal. Travis Scott's birthday, no matter what year it fell in, April 30th, that's also the founding date of the Church of Satan, which was founded in, of course, the year 66, built on their fondness for the number 666, a number which was coded into the age of both the Church of Satan and Travis Scott on the date of this event. Travis Scott's full name, which was also changed, by the way, not just his birthday, but the spelling of his middle name has also differed over the years as well. His name has double gematria of 666, essentially, when you flip it upside down. And we talked about how the number 666 was so significant. It even tied into the age of the Astrodome on this date, 20,666 days. Well, look how old the first Smurfs cartoon was on the date of this incident, 14,666 days. You also have a nod to the 9/11 code, as we explained in that first video. So it does appear that there was nothing arbitrary about selecting Smurfs for the security for this event, hey? None whatsoever. And again, check my channel out for my work on the Astroworld tragedy. Also see the videos on the deaths of Sean Roden, a bodybuilder who died the same day we got news of the tragedy. And then the death of musician Astro, the same day that we learned about the Astroworld tragedy. Pretty incredible coincidences, if I might say so myself. And I see a lot of you talking in the chat saying you never liked the Smurfs. I just want to throw my support in the hat here. When I was a really little kid, I did watch the Smurfs, and I remember really looking forward to the Smurfs. Now, I couldn't tell you anything about the Smurfs now, but I'm surprised to see how much hatred for the Smurfs out there. Well, now you see what the Smurfs are associated with. You got a little more information to make that judgment. All right, so for this next story, I'm going to talk about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who has stuck his neck out, his very long neck, into the media recently, trashing people like Kyrie Irving and Aaron Rodgers, who have taken a stand against this policy that all these players be vaccinated, and said some pretty horrible things about these guys. Now, you would think someone who is so self-righteous would raise a pretty good family, right? You know, his kids are probably upstanding citizens. They probably have good jobs. They are probably raising healthy families. Wrong. Instead, Adam Abdul-Jabbar, the son of Kareem, is now in prison for stabbing a 60-year-old man. That's right. His 60-year-old neighbor was upset at Adam Abdul-Jabbar because Adam was not helping his elderly housemate take the garbage out and back from the curb. She's out there doing it in her walker, hobbling out, pulling the trash cans down and up the driveway. So he's like, hey, help her out. What are you doing? You're young. You're in shape. Your dad's an NBA legend. What are you doing? And instead of helping the old lady, he stabs him. Okay. Now, that's assuming, of course, you believe this news story in the first place, which I would caution you against, because there's definitely something else going on here. Now think about the symbolism with his son stabbing somebody. One of the stabs allegedly occurring in his neck, in his head area. His skull was fractured, really? Well, think about the name Jabbar in relation to Kareem's support for getting the jab, right? G-A-B, jab. Well, as I pointed out earlier, there's this film that came out on October 21st, which was perhaps unrelated, but that was the date of the Rust shooting, a big Hollywood movie ritual. Well, in that film, there's this part where I guess people got to stick their hand into a box, and it's supposed to be really painful, but if they succumb to the pain, there's this lady who will stab them with a needle called the Gam Jabbar, and it causes instant death, right? So here we see Jabbar in media multiple ways, same symbolism. Now, in the alphabetic order, Abdul-Jabbar sums to 74. So does the word stabbing, 74. And this guy just turned 74 years old back in April. His son was sentenced to jail exactly 74 weeks after he stabbed his elderly neighbor. So the stabbing was on June 9th of last year, sentenced on November 9th this year. And they said he might even get probation. 6 months probation equals 1109, like the date he was sentenced. You also get 251, like stabbing. Not sure if that's part of the coding or not, but thought I'd point it out. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar famously changed his name from Ferdinand Louis Alcindor. And notice how that name sums to 1420 in the Jewish cipher. Well, 142 is the reverse gematria of the word stabbing. And the stabbing victim in this story was named Ray Windsor, and his name sums to 142 in ordinal. They also share a 52. The sentencing was on the date leaving 52 days in the year. And here, just to show you once again that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar ripping Aaron Rodgers over the vaccine thing, taking a hardline stance on NBA players, trying to play father to everybody, telling them what to do with their bodies. Real good guy here, this Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, hey? I thought it was funny that his son Adam was born in 1992 because the name Kareem Abdul-Jabbar equals 1992. His name also 251, like stabbing. This number 251 is a prime number. Notice how it's the 54th prime number, and his son stabbed his neighbor 54 days after Kareem's birthday. And 54 is a number that's significant to Islam. And think about how Kareem Abdul-Jabbar changed his name because he converted to Islam back in the late 60s, early 70s, around that time. In this video, too, we're going to be doing a little bit of talk about the Eclipse code and some astrological riddles, as we always do. A perfect example of this is the fact that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the number 1 pick in the 69 NBA draft, and then he wore number 33 for his entire career. These numbers are found in the Gematria of Eclipse. And news of his son's sentencing was 3 weeks and 3 days before the next total eclipse. The sentencing itself fell 330 days after the last eclipse. Remember, in Greek, total eclipse equals 9/11, and the names Lou Alcindor and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar both sum to an upside-down 9/11. The number 9/11 is another prime number, the 156th. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, if you look his career up, he played in 1,560 career games, regular season. This film Dune, which has the Gam Jabbar in it, is exactly 156 minutes in length. This is the gematria of the number 33, 156, the number that he wore for his whole career. He was even drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks, which equals 156. Eclipse the Sun, 156. Eclipse is always occurring 1, 5, or 6 lunar phases after the last one. I want to show you a visualization of this in a minute. Furthermore, the name Abdul-Jabbar has matching gematria with the sun. His son Adam Abdul-Jabbar has a name that sums to 93 and 39. Remember, the sun is an average of 93 million miles from Earth. There's a little bit more in here too, but I want to focus on this 156. Like, I can't stress how significant this number is. We talk about how 666 equals 156, like triple sixes. The Earth's polar axis sits 66.6 degrees away from the plane of the sun, a number that our space administration, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, coded into their organization, 666. Sun Moon 666. And in ordinal, as I mentioned, eclipse the sun equals 156. That happens when a moon crosses the plane of the sun, 156. And the number 33 even sums to 156. And 33 is the reduction value of eclipse. Now in Hebrew, a word for impairment or like occultation, right, which is used for the phrase solar eclipse. So technically the word for eclipse in Hebrew equals 156. Now, eclipses always occur every 1, 5, or 6 lunar phases. And just real quick, I want to go over this little file I built here. And what this is the date of every solar eclipse that's ever occurred in the canon for 5,000 years. And there are remarkable patterns to this. And this is why I think, the number 6, it's not just a symbol that people like to use for their rituals. Like 6 is a number of creation. And to me, this proves it almost as much as anything. You'll notice that most solar eclipses are separated by 6 lunar phases. That's what this number here in column G shows. Column H is the Saros cycle that eclipse belongs to. Column I is the chronological order of that eclipse in the Saros. So this is the third eclipse of Saros 125. And then this column shows how many Saros cycles are active at that current time. It's a lot to look at, I know, but it's cool how it's almost always once every 6 lunar phases. And then you'll see once in a while, it's once every 5, right? So you go 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, and then 5. And this pattern will repeat until you get an eclipse that's 1 lunar phase after the last one. And you'll see this is still every 6, right? You have 6, 6, 6, 6, and then 5 plus 1 is 6. And then, again, 1 plus 5 is 6, 5 plus 1. So this is always a 6. It's just that some Saros cycles bump up so that they're 1 lunar phase apart. But you could scroll down here, and you will always see that when it's 5 or 1, they come in clumps, except for a very rare occurrence when you see one off like this. You'll see 6, 5, 6, 1. And this has a way of resolving itself. Like, this won't last for very long. You'll only see this 2 or 3 times. So here we're looking at 1125. So the next eclipse from this Saros cycle would be 1143. So you go down to 1143. Here you see again this 6 phases is tucked in between. But when you go to 61, you'll see it once more. But then you go to 79, and you see there's a new Saros series that just started. Saros 126 just began. And it kind of plugs up that hole and patches up the difference. And you can scroll and just look at this. It's awesome. So again, this is the whole basis of the 156 code. Like, it'll never happen any other way. It can't. All right, moving on. For the next story I wanted to look at, we have the Kyle Rittenhouse trial wrapping up. And I believe this is connected to the recent story about Joe Biden releasing files with JFK. Now, of course, this is always being delayed. Every president who comes in says, I'm going to come in and release the files, and then we never really find anything out. All by design, just to keep us chasing the purple dragon. And it's crazy how the gematria of the JFK conspiracy has matching gematria with conspiracies, like John F. Kennedy matching conspiracies, JFK conspiracy, and JFK assassination, both summing to 11/22, which was the date of the assassination. This story about Joe Biden delaying the JFK files, this fell on October 23rd. And think about the date October 23rd, written 1023, like 1, 2, 3. And in the alphabetic order, the word conspiracy sums to 123. That date falls 147 days after JFK's birthday. That same day is also 218 days before his next birthday, and conspiracy theory equals 218. So this is all laid out in my post. And I also talk about the strong links between JFK and Joe Biden on the basis of them both being the first Catholic presidents. I did another decode on the Superior General of the Jesuit Order, the Society of Jesus, which is again the Masonic branch of the Catholic Church. Arturo Sosa entering his role completely by the numbers of the beast. And in Jewish gematria, you'll notice how beast equals 198. Arturo Sosa, his full name sums to 1098. And in Sumerian Gematria, the name Superior General equals 1098. In fact, the last Superior General before him was Nicholas Adolfo Pachon, which equals 1098. Now, if you add these digits, 1 plus 9 plus 8, you get 18. So this is kind of similar to the 666 code. 6 plus 6 plus 6 is 18. And again, when you write out beast, it sums to 198. Kenosha, Wisconsin has Gematria of 198, and all eyes this week are on Kenosha, Wisconsin for the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse, whose name also has Gematria of 198. On top of this connection with the beast code, Kenosha, Wisconsin sums to 99 and 90, which is another way of coding an upside-down 666. Remember, the name Kennedy equals 666 in reverse Sumerian. The Rittenhouse shooting was on August 25th, which is 25/8. Number of the beast equals 258. And the shootings in Kenosha were in response to a police shooting that occurred on August 23rd. And August 23rd can be written 23/8. Look at 666, 238. And then the shooting, August 25th, is the date in a leap year. It's the 238th day of the year. Now, interestingly enough, I would actually be surprised if this story was a hoax. I think it's more likely this seems to be organic coding of some sort, maybe. And I say that for a number of reasons. First of all, I'm surprised that this didn't happen more often last year, with all the looting, burning, thievery that was going on. For this to be really the only major case in which someone killed protesters, well, I call them protesters loosely, but that's what the media likes to call them. It just makes more sense to me that the media just jumped on this case and tried to villainize him. If it was fake, why is it such a cut and dry case, for one? And secondly, why didn't he kill, like, black people? So I have a lot of questions about it. Again, the numerology never ceases to amaze. And another thing that stuck out about the date of this shooting is that it had numerology of 73 and 37. And Kenosha sums to 73 and 37. Also notice the 53, which is the ordinal value of the name Kyle. 53. And then the trial began on the 1st, which had 53 numerology. So again, I'm not here to tell you what to think about these stories. I'm just giving you the numbers, and you can decide for yourself if this is a strong enough riddle that it's fake to some degree. Another thing that stands out about the name Kyle is that it sounds like the word kill. And see how Kyle has matching gematria with kill, 17 and 19, English and Hebrew. Remember, he was even 17 years old at the time. The word Kyle, kill equals 17. The word kill also has Hebrew gematria of 244, like the number 19 in Jewish. And look at the city of Kenosha, 244 and 28, just like kill. The kill code is really powerful here. Now, this shooting happened like right before midnight. So it was almost impossible for anyone to hear about it until the following day, which had 74 numerology. And this is where things get really weird. The word killing equals 74 in the alphabetic order. And look how old Kyle Rittenhouse was on the date of this killing story. 6,444 days. The word killing equals 444. Killing also has gematria of 319. And in satanic gematria, the trial ended on the 319th day of the year. This is also the date that leaves 46 days in the year, which is kill in Hebrew. So I feel like this is extreme coding, but we're not even done. Oops. Notice how killing has double gematria of 115. This is in both the reverse alphabetic order and Jewish or Latin gematria, also known as Agrippa's key. 115. So this is a really important number too. Now, let's first look at the date that this trial began, 11/1/2021. 11 is a master number, so it's not reduced. 2021 reduces to 5, so this date reduces to 11/1/5. The final day of the trial was 11/15, November 15th. And that date was 1 year, 11 weeks, and 5 days after the shooting. And think about how protesters equals 115. Now, the only middle name I've been able to find for Kyle Rittenhouse is Howard. And check out how his name equals 111 and 105. He was even born 1 year and 115 days after 9/11. And we've been talking about JFK briefly. Well, the JFK assassination occurred on a date with 115 numerology. The assassin, which equals 115, shot him from a warehouse, which equals 115. And remember, the date of the JFK assassination was 11/22. JFK assassination 11/22. JFK conspiracy 11/22. Look at the name Kyle Rittenhouse, 11/22. He was 211 months, 22 days old. And he was even from Antioch. Antioch equals 211. See how this all ties together? It's in the same cipher even. Very bizarre. Now, if you measure from the birth of JFK to the birth of Kyle Rittenhouse, you get 1,027 months. The name Rittenhouse is 1,027 in English. And also think about Kyle Rittenhouse's birthday. He was born in 2003 on the third day of the year. 233, like John Fitzgerald Kennedy. 233. He was also called Jack Kennedy, his nickname, 103. And Kyle Rittenhouse was born on January 3rd, 103. Rittenhouse's birth also 2,041 weeks after the assassination. This is a lot like 241, the 53rd prime. 53 connecting Kyle to John Kennedy, to shooting. Some more interesting numbers here as well. So what do you guys think? I mean, geez. Again, is it a hoax? It's one of those things where how did this not happen organically at some point during these riots last year? Again, I have an open mind. There's a lot of organic things that we see that we know is organic. There's a lot of things that we know the media is staging. A lot of sports chat going around. We'll get to sports in a second. For those of you who have stuck around this long, I'll be cluing you in on who I'm picking for the Super Bowl this year. I don't think it's going to surprise a whole lot of people. But I'm pretty sure I know who's going from the NFC this year. I think we got a big clue over the weekend. The thing with sports, and there's always a lot of controversy about sports betting every time it comes up on this channel, or really ever for that matter. And, again, the first words out of my mouth tend to be, hey, Vegas always wins. So be careful what you're doing. Be responsible. Another thing I want to point out is that while I've had an incredible run of predicting sports, it's only bound to come to an end at some point. Because although these riddles can be found ahead of time, if word gets out and things become too obvious and there's too much money on the line, things can sway. Now, I don't know if I'm at that point, if this channel's that big yet. But again, it's only a matter of time. How many correct predictions can I make before it's all going to topple down? Now, this past weekend, we had the deaths of... all right, let me pull these posts up for you. NFL linebacker Sam Huff. And I didn't originally connect this to the NFL season and what's going on, but this whole post originally was built off the number 13. I could not believe the number of 13 synchronicities with this story. And the NFL confirmed it over and over. So we know that the clue for Super Bowl 56 was this weekend. And this weekend just happened to be 13 weeks before the Super Bowl. So, for the advanced at this craft, now is the time to look between the lines and see what's going on. So first, let's just go over the basic numerology of Sam Huff, who again passed away at the age of 87. Sam Huff was a one-time NFL champion. That happened in the year 1956. And I thought it was pretty cool that Fox News gave us a headline that had Gematria of 1956. He died at the age of 87, and notice how the name Robert Lee Sam Huff has Gematria of 87. Furthermore, without his nickname, Robert Lee Sam Huff equals 807 in English Gematria. His death fell 64 years after the NFL championship that he won. He played for the New York Giants at the time, which sums to 64. He was a linebacker, which equals 64. Notice how his death fell on a date with numerology of 29, and the name Sam Huff equals 29 in reduction. So Sam Huff played for two teams in his career, the New York Giants, whom he won the championship with, and the Washington Redskins. Now, this past week in the NFL, the Giants had a bye, so they didn't play. But the Redskins did play. And who did the Redskins play? Well, I'm calling them the Redskins. They're just Washington now. But they played Tampa Bay, the defending Super Bowl champions. And look how many points Washington scored. 29. Not a very common score. Again, this happened on a date with 29 numerology, and Sam Huff equals 29 in Pythagorean. So to me, this is an immediate clue that this is a Super Bowl clue. His old team playing the defending champs. Robert Lee Sam Huff Sr. sums to 211, the 47th prime number. When they won the NFL title, it was with 47 points. And news of his death published on the date leaving 47 days in the year. Sam Huff was the second NFL player to ever appear on Time magazine. Notice how Time equals 47. And yes, we will talk about how this one is connected to the total eclipse code, which equals 47. Total eclipse equals 70 in reverse reduction, and Sam Huff spent his entire NFL career wearing number 70. So when we see the eclipse code, again, this is what pointed us at the Braves winning the World Series 33 days before the eclipse. Another thing about this is, think about Atlanta. The Braves in baseball, but in football you have the Falcons. And who did the Falcons play? Well, the Falcons went up against the Dallas Cowboys. So this, a very significant part of the riddle, as we'll see. But look at how well the phrase total solar eclipse is coded into Sam Huff. Sam Huff was born on October 4th, written 10/4, like total solar eclipse. His name even equals 104. His birth numerology was 67 and 22. And as far as the 704 in Jewish Gematria, the name Sam Huff equals 74. So, of course, a big moon and eclipse number is 13. Total eclipse equals 130 in Jewish ordinal. Human sacrifice 130. His full name also with reduction Gematria of 103. And I noticed they took out the senior that was previously here. Regardless of whether or not he was really a senior, he has plenty of fascinating Gematria. But here's what we want to focus on. The number 13 was so coded in here, it's absurd. Notice how the last name Huff equals 13. Huff was diagnosed with dementia in the year 13, He passed away on the 13th of the month. And think about how this year will be the first year with the Super Bowl on the 13th of the month since the year 74. And the name Sam Huff equals 74. So Sam Huff dies 10 months and 30 days after the last total eclipse, another 13. It was also exactly 13 weeks before the Super Bowl. Now the 13th prime number is 41. Notice how the name Huff equals 41. His full name, Robert Lee Huff, also equals 141. And this is also a lot like his birthday, the 4th of October, or 4/10, like 41. Now, when you write out the number 13, you get double gematria of 45 in full and reverse reduction, 45 both ways. Sam Huff was 4,545 weeks old on the date he passed away. 45. Now, there's a team in the NFL that has double gematria of 45. That would be New England. 45 and 45. How many points did the Patriots score yesterday? If you guessed 45, you'd be correct. Patriots 45, Browns 7. There you have it. No, wait a second. Another team scored 45 that day. My goodness, it's the Bills. Bills scoring 45. Well, Buffalo Bills, 45. Notice how the name Robert Lee Huff sums to 567? The number 13 equals 567. Notice how 13 also equals 117. This guy had primary birth numerology. Ah, my mistake. He won the NFL championship on a date with 117 numerology. Notice how 13 also equals 347. This is the 69th prime number. And the name Robert Lee Huff equals 69. In reduction, much like Eclipse 69. There's a lot more coding here. The names Sam and Robert, both 33 like Eclipse. Robert Lee Huff has matching gematria with 33. And look at this. He died 156 days after the last solar eclipse. He even went to college in West Virginia. Look at West Virginia, 156. The name Robert Huff Sr., if that's true, also 156. And then his full name has matching gematria with 666. So what does this all mean? What does this all mean? So I mentioned a lot of teams in that decode. We have Washington, the Buccaneers, the Bills, the Patriots, the Cowboys. Who's this all pointing to? Well, when you look deep, I think it's pretty clear. Let me just pull some notes up real quick, and I'll go over a couple of these. I just want to share a few of these with you. First of all, Cowboys coach Mike McCarthy. Now, notice how the Cowboys scored 43 points. Dallas Cowboys sums to 43. Now, I don't know if this means anything, but next year's Super Bowl 57, see how this occurs on the 43rd day of the year? Well, if you measure from this past weekend, notice how it's 1 year and 91 days. That's the 43rd prime number, 191. And I would be lying if I didn't see some interesting things connecting the Cowboys to Super Bowl 57. Now, I haven't looked deep. I haven't looked at many teams out of the NFC, so that could be nothing. But think about how Dak Prescott was drafted on the date 4/30, April 30th. When Jerry Jones hired Mike McCarthy as the coach of the Cowboys, he was 4,030 weeks old exactly. So perhaps that's a connection, but Back to the number 13. This year's Super Bowl, again, the first to occur on the 13th day of the month since 1974. The name McCarthy, by the way, the Cowboys coach, McCarthy equals 91, which is the 13th triangular number. And his initials are very obvious, right? M, the 13th letter. His full name even equals 1399. And in the alphabetic order, the number 13 is the only number to have gematria of 99. Mike McCarthy has birth numerology of, you guessed it, 103, just like a 13. So this guy is coded up and down with the number 13, so we know that. And on the date that we got news of the death of Sam Huff, Mike McCarthy won his 13th game with the Cowboys. Now, he could have lost his 13th game also, so maybe it doesn't mean much. But that stuck out to me. Meanwhile, Washington, the other team that Sam Huff played for aside from New York, see how Washington equals 130? They got their 13th win over Tampa Bay yesterday, all time. The name Dak Prescott also has 990 gematria. When looking at Michael John McCarthy also, this 1399, this is significant for another reason. It's a prime number, the 222nd prime, 222. Think about next year's Super Bowl in 2022, 222. Very interesting stuff. Now, I mentioned how February 13th, the Super Bowl this coming year, this is the first Super Bowl to be played on the 13th of the month since 1974 when it was played in January. So this year's Super Bowl is exactly 577 months later. And there's a pretty strong possibility that the Cowboys could enter the game or end the Super Bowl with 577 franchise victories. And we know this franchise victory count is very important because this week, the Cowboys got their 533rd franchise win in the regular season. And look at the number 533, guys and gals. Don't want to leave anybody out. 533 is 13 times the 13th prime number. Again, Mike McCarthy's 13th win. So a lot of attention on the Cowboys this weekend. So definitely something going on there. I even have 74 viewers right now. Dallas Cowboys, 74. Ho, ho, ho. Maybe it's a stretch. Now, I only shared with you like a really small number of notes here. Really the big one, though, is that the Cowboys getting Mike McCarthy's 13th win, this game was a span of 13 days after the end of the World Series when the Atlanta Braves won the championship and the Cowboys played the Atlanta Falcons. So, to me, that's a pretty clear one. Think about 13 with Dallas. Dallas equals 13. Their logo is the star on the helmet, star 13. All right. Next decode I want to look at is the passing of Max Cleland. So we just talked about the Atlanta Braves real briefly, mentioned this. A former senator from the state of Georgia named Max Cleland passed away a little over a week ago, I think. Yep, November 9th. 7 days ago. And so many things stuck out to me about how this was connected to the World Series. And first, we start with the fact that his last name is Cleland. Well, what city does the name Cleland remind you of? Cleveland was the last team that the Atlanta Braves defeated in the World Series, all the way back in the year 95. The name Max Cleland sums to 89, and 89 is the reduction value of Atlanta Braves. Cleland was the secretary of the American Battle Monuments Commission, ABMC, which equals 89. So this guy was born in Atlanta, Georgia. He died in Atlanta, Georgia. And his name was Max. Well, in the World Series, the clinching game, Game 6, was won by winning pitcher Max Fried. And see how his name is Maximus, according to Major League Baseball. Maximus equals 89. This guy's full name equals 78, just like Cleveland. And look at his birthday, the 18th of January, written 18/1. The name Max Cleland equals 181 in reverse gematria. And again, Cleland reminding us of the Cleveland Indians and their loss to the Atlanta Braves. 181 is the 42nd prime number. His last name, Fried, equals 42. Max Cleland was born in the year 42. Max Cleland was quite notable for his presence in Congress and the Senate, as he had no legs, right? And this all stems to an injury he suffered during the Vietnam War. This occurred when he picked up a hand grenade. Notice how the words grenade and hand grenade both have gematria of 54. And this stuck out to me because Max Fried, the winner in this year's World Series, wears number 54. Of course, this is a big number connected to baseball, which has double gematria of 54. 54 outs in a game. Max Cleland was born 51 years before Max Fried. Cleland equals 51, so does Cleveland. 51 is also the reduction gematria of Moses Cleveland. This is the man who the city of Cleveland is named after. Max Cleland, his full name is actually Joseph Maxwell Cleland. And notice how this has gematria of 214 in ordinal. Moses Cleveland died 214 years ago. The last name Cleveland with the A sums to 79. Joseph Maxwell Cleland equals 79 and 101. And when he died, he was exactly 79 years and 11 weeks old. Cleland's grenade injury occurred during the Battle of Khe Sanh, which ended on July 9th, which is the date written 7/9, just like his name, his age, and Cleveland in gematria. Now, I talked a lot about how in the World Series, I actually didn't talk a lot about this. I did mention it on an interview I did this past weekend with Interverse Podcast. If you want to check my blog out, I put a link there. The World Series contained a significant Martin Luther riddle. Martin Luther is known for posting the 95 Theses on the doors of the Catholic Church. That occurred on October 31st, which is now known as Reformation Day, also Halloween, of course. Well, on October 31st in the World Series, the Braves lost by a score of 9-5, and it was exactly 9,500 days after they won the 95 World Series against the Cleveland Indians, which equals 95. The Indians, who are, of course, the other Native American team name, aside from the Braves, announced a name change after their 95th game of the season. The Astros even played the Indians in their 95th game of the season, and then the Braves beat the Astros in the World Series after the Astros won 95 games. I think the Braves even went to the World Series with 95 wins. And this all connects to Martin Luther, the 95 Theses on October 31st, that same day. But the number 95 is not only significant to Martin Luther, it's also significant to Martin Luther King, who was assassinated on a date with primary numerology of 95, which was also the 95th day of a leap year. Max Cleland was born 709 weeks after Martin Luther King Jr. to go along with all the 79s. But here's the real kicker. Max Cleland got both the silver and bronze star for his actions in combat. Those actions occurred on April 4th, 1968. That's the same day that Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Max Cleland died on the date November 9th, which is written 1109. The name Martin Luther King equals 1109. Martin Luther King Jr. is 1209. And think about Moses Cleveland, born on 129, January 29th. Also, 1109, check this out. 1109 is the 186th prime number. And Moses Cleveland died in 1806. Cleland had birth numerology of 93 to go with his name. The name Freed, the Braves pitcher, also 93. 93, the reduction gematria of Martin Luther King Jr. Big 93 there. Notice how it's also 228, and Max Cleland was injured 228 days after his birthday, just after receiving those medals on the date that MLK was assassinated. So the point I'm making here is that there was a very significant Martin Luther riddle connected to the World Series, and now there's a big Martin Luther King riddle connected to the World Series with the death of Max Cleland. Pretty bizarre stuff. A lot of 33s in this guy's death, too. He died 1 week or 7 days after the Braves won the World Series. The 33rd verse of the Bible, God rests on the seventh day. So 33, 7 days, closely connected. Wow, his death seems to be connected to the next American eclipse. 2 years and 5 months or 29 months. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., 250, 290. I don't know. There's a deep riddle to this. I'm not going to break this all down for you. I urge you to check the post out if you really want your mind to bend further than it already has. Speaking of astrology and baseball, I was doing a little research into Major League Baseball this week, and I came across some interesting information regarding the first ever Major League Baseball draft, which occurred in the year 1965. And I noticed that the guy who was selected first in the draft, like, I had no plans on decoding the draft, okay? But then I saw that the first selection in the draft was named Rick Monday. And I said, you got to be kidding me. Monday, like the moon. This draft occurred on June 8th and 9th, starting on June 8th. And June 8th is the date of the Great American Eclipse in 1918. Remember, we had the big Spanish flu pandemic beginning in 1918. In contemporary times, we have the coronavirus pandemic, and it just so happens to be the period between the two Great American total solar eclipses. These are the first total solar eclipses to cross over most of the United States since 1918. So I thought this was interesting, right? It's on the anniversary of the eclipse. They select a man named Monday. In Gematria, Major League Baseball draft sums to 1331. And for those of you who follow my work, you know that this is the ultimate eclipse number, 1331. The Black Death plague, another huge pandemic in history, began in 1331 in Hubei, China, the same province that coronavirus began in. And 1331 was the year of this total solar eclipse, which never touched a major body of water. The only eclipse I've ever seen that has this property to it. And when you look at Jewish gematria, it's absolutely undeniable that this eclipse was heavily coded into this cipher. So everything we need to know about the relevance of that eclipse is right here in this Jewish Latin Agrippa cipher. So, Major League Baseball draft also sums to 211. And look at the birthday of Rick Monday. Rick Monday was born on 2011, the 20th of November. His last name, Monday, matches the moon. He went to college at Arizona State, which means he was a sun devil. So what better nod to the eclipse code than a man named after the moon who played for a team named after the sun? The first ever Major League draft and Monday's selection occurred exactly 47 years after the total eclipse that went over the United States. 47, the reduction value of total eclipse. And think about how much a baseball diamond resembles the Masonic compass in square. And that compass on their emblem is set to 47 degrees, a very heavily Freemasonic number. And what's the 47th prime number? That would be 211. Major League Baseball draft, 211. Such solid coding, it's wild. By the way, the draft also on the 8th of June, or 8-6. Draft equals 86. Rick Monday was exactly 1,020 weeks, or 19 years and 200 days old, numbers found in the gematria of Eclipse. The same numbers, by the way, found in Kansas City A's, the team that drafted him. Rick Monday was most well known for an incident that occurred on the field in 1976. So we think about all these things going on in current times in sports, right? We have like the Kaepernick kneeling. We have all these flag protests. We have the fists going up instead. It's really kind of humorous when you look back in history and see for how long these types of bizarre rituals have been going on. And Rick Monday, the first ever MLB draft pick, participated in one back in 1976. And if you read up on this, it's actually hilarious. Allegedly, what happened is that these two protesters ran out on the field with an American flag and tried to burn it in the outfield. I mean, it's so ridiculous. But instead of being able to burn the flag, Rick Monday, the heroic Cubs center fielder, came up, snatched the flag, saved it, and returned it back to the dugout. And then the protesters who were on the field got arrested or whatever. Now, again, this is hilarious. First of all, the word protest equals 76. And this was the year 76, right? Protest also equals 113, and that's the ordinal value of Rick Monday. Now, 113 is the 30th prime number, and on the date of this protest, Rick Monday was 30 years and 157 days old. Rick Monday, 157 reverse. 157 is another prime number, the 37th. This game was between Chicago and Los Angeles. Chicago 37, Los Angeles 37. And would you believe the number on the outfield fence right behind this incident? They did it right in front of the 370 sign. And look at the word rescue, 37, rescuing the flag. There's a lot more to this as well. Burning the flag equals 72 in both reduction ciphers. Rick Monday's name, Robert James Monday, has gematria of 72. Monday equals 72. American flag equals 72. This happened against the Dodgers, which equals 72. And it was on the nation's bicentennial when it turned 200 years old. Bicentennial, 72. So the Dodgers were so happy that Rick Monday did this that they ended up trading for Rick Monday later that off-season. He was traded 261 days after he rescued the flag. Robert James Monday equals 261. He rescued the flag of the United States of America, which equals 261. The name Robert Monday, his real name, has this 60 and 66. And 666 is another number coded on the flag because Star Spangled Banner equals 666. Woo! That is a lot of decoding right there, guys. How many numbers do you think I just said in the last hour and 6 minutes? It would tickle me pink if someone counted that one day. I would be equally joyed and disturbed by your commitment if you did that. Once again, I planned on looking at the chat more throughout this live stream, but I just had so much I wanted to cover. The numerology is so fascinating. I find this amazing language to be so gripping and just amazing that I can't get over it. So excuse me when I get carried away. But yeah, special shout out, everybody. It's always good to see that after all these years, I still have people chugging along, interested in what I'm looking at. It's a blessing for sure. And yeah, as far as the future of the channel, expect more short edited videos. I'm going to be getting back into that a little bit this week. And then I've been kind of rethinking what I want to do with Patreon. What I really want to guard myself, if I'm going to be serious about making my living teaching gematria and numerology, which I am serious about, I want to be as secure about it as possible. And I don't like that Patreon hides certain information from you, like emails and whatnot. So I'm going to be looking to do the bulk of my business on my website. And it's going to be twofold. People will get a chance to support the work while also gaining access to advanced parts of the calculator. Now, I haven't been able to do nearly as much development as I wanted to. And, well, I've been able to do more than I have, but I haven't gotten around to it. And part of it is because I've fallen so much in love with decoding. You know, it's kind of ironic because when I first built the Gematrinator back in 2017... Oh, and this reminds me, by the way, before I continue this story, I want to point out how recently the word Gematrinator was added to Wikipedia. As far as I know, this is the first time. And I didn't do it. Certainly someone else did. But you guys may remember, back on September 27th this year, my website went down. And September 27th is a date I talk about a lot because it's the Jesuit anniversary. In fact, I think I just backed out here. Yeah. Society of Jesus, September 27th. And I was having some bizarre problem with my server, which I never figured out. But everyone who was trying to access my website kept getting an internal 400 error or something like that, or 500. And I thought it was interesting that on September 27th, Gematrinator was added to Wikipedia. So here we're looking at the 26th of September, and you'll see in the English Gematria section, it's very, very thin. It just says English Kabbalah, right? There's nothing there. Well, then, on September 27th, you go down to English Gematria, and it mentions Agrippa's key, right? Cornelius Agrippa. And this is basically referring to the Jewish Gematria cipher, which I think is the most significant cipher there is. Say what you want about ordinal and reduction, and those are huge, but when you get 3- and 4-digit matches regularly in Jewish Gematria, I think that says a lot. But anyways, it says, hey, since 2018, a modern version of this cipher has been employed by many conspiracy theorists who use the Gematria calculator or the Gematrinator calculator. We did it, boys. We made it to Wikipedia as a conspiracy theorist. Woohoo! All right. Of course, this phrase has double meaning. Really, the primary meaning being critical thinker. Think about it. Conspiracy theorist, critical thinker, Maybe I'm just stretching it out here. All right. So where was I getting at with this? Oh, yeah. So I've been teaching this cipher since 2016 and 2017, not 2018. So Wikipedia gets it wrong, saying I've been a conspiracy theorist since 2018. No. It's been before that. Jerks. So anyways, my website goes down on this date, right? September 27th, the same date Gematria gets added to Wikipedia. You got to love it. I knew I was going to get sidetracked and forget where I was going with this. Good grief. Do you guys remember? Can someone tell me what the hell I was talking about? Come on, I've been streaming for over an hour. Eventually I get excited enough that I forget something. Ugh. Oh, yeah, I was talking about the website and upgrades to it and whatnot. There's more stuff that we want to add to the calculator. I specifically. And some of it has to do with this whole Eclipse database I built. I want to make it easy to measure two eclipses, whether it's lunar or solar. We have a lot of that. The Gematrinator is my own website. So, yeah, I'm not going over... I'm not going to use Patreon, or I'm going to try to use it minimally, because I already have my own website. I can integrate certain software so that people can subscribe, and it would be a separate company. You know, I wouldn't get your information. I could still make that work. Good grief. I was on fire talking about something. Star-Spangled Banner, I know, that's what I was talking about. The flag. And all these eclipse rituals going back dozens, if not hundreds of years. Bloody hell. Yeah, I mean, I want to I want to spend as much time decoding. Like I said, I really fell in love with decoding. Oh, I remember what I was getting at. You know, when I built the calculator in 2017, I wanted to point out that Wikipedia got that date wrong. When the calculator went up, I actually had no intention of being a decoder. I really didn't care to. I wanted to be the one who built the software for it. Now, I built the calculator as part of a project for myself to investigate Gematria, because when I first found it, it was interesting and I thought it was pretty fascinating, but I was like, how can this be real? It's too simple. So I had to go in myself and do my own work to find it. Guys, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm actually a skeptic. When someone comes up to me and says something like, the earth is flat, or that sports are rigged, right? Like, I want proof. I want 100% proof of that. And I'm skeptical. So when someone says gematria is significant, that dates on the calendar matter, I was skeptical. I had to prove it to myself. So as part of the project of building these tools, I dove really deep into the language, into the Bible, into the calendar, and I found so many more interesting things than I was learning from anywhere else that I had to go out and teach these things. And it just so happens that the same codes I was picking up on for years, you know, the 1331 666 connections, for instance, these things could not have proven to be more relevant over time. So it takes me a lot when I look into these things for me to be swayed. So, for instance, all these other ciphers that people keep asking me to add, like, why don't I have a ×9 cipher? Why don't I have a mirror cipher? Why don't I have this ancient English cipher? It's like, because I haven't seen enough evidence that convinced me that these things are legit. And maybe they are. I don't know. I shouldn't be the ultimate arbiter on what is relevant gematria. I'm just one guy. And this is all greater than all of us put together. So as part of the upgraded calculator, people will have the ability to add their own ciphers, throw in whatever you want. Other users will be able to access those methods, and you can share finds. It's not that I don't care about these other methods. Maybe there's relevance to them, but for the purpose of what I do, I hope everybody understands that it looks crazy enough when I pull up the calculator and I got 5 different ciphers here, right? Now, you guys know it's mainly these 2 and this one, right? I mean, 80% of my finds, I bet, are in one of these 3 ciphers. And then you just have the reverse, very basic complementary methods. But even this is too much for people. They see this and they're like, no, I can't look at that. Too many numbers. You're crazy. So for me to stick, I have to stick with the alphabetic order. And then, I stretch with this one alternate method. And even people think that's a stretch, but as you see, it's definitely not. Oh, thanks to Zamora for being the first person to remember what I was getting at there. You're awesome. Yeah, so as far as date calendars, there's going to be all sorts of upgrades to the date calculator, guys. Like right now, it's only date to date, but we're going to be incorporating planetary ages. I keep saying we. Well, I have to figure out how I'm going to get all this built if I'm going to be doing it because, decoding is my favorite thing. Making videos, making these videos, super streams, short edited videos. I love doing that. I don't love programming. I really don't. I'm good at it. I did what I had to do to get the website up, but I really don't enjoy it. So, yeah, planetary calculators. You're going to see calculators for all different types of calendars, whether it's the Hebrew civil calendar, the Coptic calendar, the Islamic calendar. It should all be there. And again, that's in addition to all the extra ciphers and various calculation methods that'll be there. There will also be special access to databases. So the database functionality that has kind of faded into obscurity over the years will be brought back and improved so that it can be more catered and relevant to what you're searching through. My pipe dream is to have a sports section of the website where you get a one-stop shop for all, everybody's records, franchise records, gematria, age, birthdays, all that stuff for all the athletes, coaches. That's a long ways down the road, but it's definitely something that we'll be putting some effort into. So, yeah, I mean, it sucks, right? Because gematria, I know gematria can generate resources. We've seen this in the past with others. I would like to see those resources more geared towards improving the community. Again, for me, it's a mix of taking the resources that I've built over, 14 years of working for the same company, balancing that with what I want to do on the website. Still figuring it out. So, in the meantime, hopefully everybody still enjoys the videos and using the calculator itself and all that good stuff. But yeah, my rant is over. I think I'm going to wrap the live stream up there. So once again, shout out to everybody who jumped in. Whether you're watching live or archived, always feel free to like, share, and subscribe, as YouTube has decided it will continue to stifle my channel on the algorithm. I was actually impressed by how many views my video on the Astroworld Stampede got. 5,000 or something? I mean, what is this, 2018? No censorship? Jeez. YouTube is hilariously bad at user management, and no better example was this removal of the dislike count. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, you'll see that you can no longer see how many dislikes, thumbs downs on a video. And I hate this change so much for so many reasons. YouTube's excuse for doing this is that they want to stop massive dislike attacks. Because what will happen is people will apparently, you'll get trolls just rushing in and disliking a video. Well, first of all, this change does nothing to stop that. Because you can still dislike a video. It's just you can't see how many dislikes it has. However, if a video still accumulates more dislikes than likes, YouTube will remove it from the algorithm for most recommended videos. A perfect example of this came up for me in early 2018 on my first YouTube channel. Now, on my first YouTube channel, a lot of my videos started to go viral. This especially began in like January, February of 2018. Then my channel got deleted in late February. And one video in particular stuck out where something bizarre was happening. I had a video on the Falcon Heavy launch. Remember when Elon Musk sent his car into outer space, right? That garbage. So when I made that video, it got 20,000 views within the first couple days. I checked it a few days later, and suddenly it went up to 50,000 views. And then it would get like 60, 70, all within a couple hours. And I was like, holy crap, this is awesome. It's going viral. Now, at the time that this was happening, there were approximately 600 likes and about 300 or so dislikes. Throughout the next couple of hours, as the view counts exploded, suddenly the dislikes went way up, but the likes barely went up. So what ended up happening is that the video had 720 dislikes and 710 likes. And once that happened, it stopped going viral, it fell off the algorithm, and the views stopped and the votes stopped. Because once it gets to a certain number of votes, more dislikes than likes, YouTube removes it from the algorithm. So I was the victim of a dislike attack. I guess those things are real, but it's being done by the people who are suppressing the information. That's the most important. And Gematria, I mean, I claim it's very important. A lot of people don't get it, but if they didn't think it was important, why do they suppress everyone who's teaching it? It's bizarre. So by them hiding the dislikes, it doesn't stop that from happening. That can still happen. It's just you can't tell what happened now. Another thing, too, is that as a YouTube creator, I already had the option of hiding how many likes and dislikes I had from my viewers. Now, I believe the option is only that you can hide both likes and dislikes, not one or the other. Whatever. Just add a new option. Let the creator decide. Who is this really protecting? Let's think about it. Let's go to YouTube real quick. And actually, let's go to, like, White House YouTube. Now, this video has 19,000 views, but only 367 likes. My videos tend to get, one like per every, 8 to 10 views. So that seems pretty low. Normally, the dislike count you would see would be in the thousands. But now, if I'm just a person who has no idea how much people hate the government, if I'm in my own little bubble, my own little media bubble, I'm not showing my screen, duh. Sorry. Here you see it. But yeah, if I'm just living in my bubble and I have no idea how unpopular these people really are, I can no longer tell how unpopular this is. And you see these on all the videos with like the CV19 virus that they're trying to promote. They keep saying that, or what I'm getting at is that there's so many more dislikes. They're like tenfold more dislikes than likes. They just don't want you to be able to see that anymore. They want what's being liked to seem like it's all consensus and that everybody agrees. This looks like a blue screen, doesn't it? I just feel like Joe Biden's in front of a blue screen like most of the time. I guess maybe it's just because they're doing this over Zoom or whatever. God, is there anybody with less of an empty soul than Joe Biden? Look at his eyes, dude. Like, I got to turn that off. Thanks again, everybody. Peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to you next time.
See ya.